Hi everyone, this is Jim. Today I wanted to take a look at another game of Grandmaster-elect Samuel Sevian's recent GM winning tournament performance in St. Louis at the 2014 GM Invitational. Before I get to the game, the main game, I wanted to take a brief look at this position from his game in round 2 that I showed in the previous video. Right here in this position, Sam played the move knight takes e4. And there's a number of interesting tries that White has here to try and grab this knight, and none of them work out. And I showed a couple of them. So after bishop takes, which was not played in the game, if Black plays this move, pawn takes f4 with a double attack. So rook is attacking the bishop, pawn is attacking the knight. So he gets his piece back, and with a good position. He's also won a pawn, and he's busted up the king's defensive pawn structure there. So all looks good. Now the two lines I looked at were if the bishop retreats, then we have rook takes, and if the knight retreats, then we have pawn to f4 hitting the bishop. But one of my alert viewers pointed out that, well, there's also this try rook takes f4. Defending the bishop, or apparently defending the bishop. So if you read my comments, you know the answer to this, but if you didn't, you might think of this as a little puzzle. Is the rook really defending that bishop? What does Black have here in this position? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. If he takes the rook here, then knight to f3 check wins the queen. So actually, the bishop is not defended by the rook. The rook has got to guard the f3 square. So the taking the pawn doesn't work. Now, after taking the pawn and rook takes e4, you can also try bishop takes knight to eliminate this threat of the fork. But now it's Black's turn to move, and he can just take the bishop, and Black stays with he's grabbed his piece back and he keeps it, so the number of pieces on the board is the same for both sides. He's a pawn up, and he's still got a good attack going. So Black is still winning this position. In fact, it's a bit awkward if White exchanges rooks, then this pin is going to create some big problems, and so the best move is just to drop back, and then Black can increase the pressure by pinning the knight this way, and also opening up a line for the bishop to come in here. So looks like Black is going to win even more material in this line. So what else? Is there anything else that White could try here after e takes f4? Well, he could try grabbing the knight first. This is an interesting try as well. And this line has a similar point. You can grab the bishop here and put a pin on the knight. So let's see. White is still a piece up at this point, but this pin is something that can't really be gotten out of. He takes the pawn here to defend the bishop, which was hanging as well. The bishop was still under attack, and now the move rook to a3 is enough to win the knight. There's just no defense for this. If he drops the rook back, of course, the bishop is hanging. So in all lines, Black is getting his piece back and has a strong attack. So that's the full story of this knight takes e4 move. So it's pretty interesting, and you can see it's a bit more complicated than I presented it in the video. It makes it easier to understand how the Grandmaster playing with the white pieces could have missed this idea, and shows Samuel Sevian's fine calculating ability that he was able to spot this and conclude correctly that it works in all lines to just grab that pawn there. Okay, enough for that game. Let's get on to the current game. This game was from round 3, and I'm not actually intending to show every game in this tournament that Samuel played. I'm just trying to pick out the interesting ones, but the first 3 games I thought were all pretty interesting here. Let me say a little bit of something. Now we've seen a couple of Samuel's games, maybe we can say a little bit of something about his style. It seems like he likes to play classically. He puts his pawn in the center. We saw this in the first game as well. And in the second game with the black pieces, when his opponent didn't immediately take over the center, Sam put a pawn in the center. Now in this game, Levan replied with g6, so we might get some kind of Pirt's defense like we had in round one, but we get something else. Anyway, to continue with my discussion of Samuel's style, so he's playing classically, putting pawns in the center. We saw in other games that he likes to accumulate positional advantages, putting his knights on good pieces and taking over open files when given the chance. And from round one, we saw that he likes to play aggressively when it's warranted, pushing his pawns forward and disrupting his opponent's structure. What we see in this game is a very nice use of tactics. So I think tactical alertness is something that characterizes all of his games in addition to his classical style. What we have is Capablanca used to call these petit combinations, little combinations. They're just not too deep. They're just one or two movers, but they you use these combinations or these threats of combinations to advance your position and get your pieces to good squares. And we'll see a good example of that in this game. So let's get through the opening here. Bishop to g7 was played, still along the lines of a Pirt's or modern defense. Knight to c3, and now c6. Not the most common move here. Usually black goes for a King's Indian type of setup. And after knight f3, d5, we see that actually this is a transposition and we're now in a Caro-Kann. And this is known as the Gurgenidze system in the Caro-Kann. Oh, I should say, by the way, I didn't introduce Samuel's opponent. His opponent here with the black pieces is Levan Bregadze. And Levan is a Georgian international master with a rating of 24/58, so quite a strong international master with hopes of becoming a GM, no doubt. He grew up in Georgia and learned to play chess by watching his father play. And at the age of 5, his father noticed he had a talent for chess and started bringing him to chess clubs. So Levan is currently going to school in the U.S. He's at the University of Maryland in Baltimore County. So anyway, that's it for the introductions. The game continues here, h3, just stopping the bishop from coming here and pinning the knight. And pawn takes e4. We often see this in the Caro-Kann, just an exchange to open up some lines in the center, bring this knight forward where it becomes a target, knight f6. And as is often the case in the Caro-Kann, white just goes ahead and exchanges that knight rather than keeping it, figuring that, well, it wasn't a stable post, really. It can't be maintained on e4, and he might as well trade it off for one of his opponent's developed pieces so it doesn't fall behind in development in this fashion, just keeping his moves out. And now the interesting move, c5. It is possible here to take the pawn, but Samuel declines. He decides to castle first. Sensible decision, getting your king out of the center before opening things up, and black castles as well. And now he plays the move bishop to h6. So developing his pieces with the threat, hitting the rook here, and maybe getting some ideas of attacking on the dark squares. The rook goes to e8. And now he takes the pawn. So at this point, it looks like white is just a clear pawn up. But black has ideas, I guess, of undermining. And black starts the operation with queen to a5. I should point out the engine recommends the straightforward move bishop takes b2, and maybe that's what should have been played, getting the pawn back. But the bishop is subject to some harassment here. Actually, there's kind of an interesting line here with bishop takes. And then rook b1 is a move here, but also the engine is suggesting the move knight g5, going for the attack on the f-pawn, which is a little bit awkward to defend, and dropping the rook. You can't actually take the rook, so e6 is recommended. Let's back up. Why can't you take the rook? Rook here, and bishop takes f7 check. Yeah, this is just deadly. The king only has one square, and then queen takes a1 check. Gets the bishop, and then it looks like it's almost impossible to defend this position with all the pieces attacking the king. Anyway, big advantage for white there. So anyway, there are some interesting lines after bishop takes b2, still keeping an advantage for white. Black tried the move queen to a5. So in response to this, knight to e5 was played. And this is the first of those little combinations. It looks like the knight is just hanging here. He's just placed the knight on a square where it can be taken. So take a second and see if you can figure out why it's not safe to take that knight. Or why it doesn't help to take that knight, I should say. Okay, after bishop takes knight, which was not played, there's two ways to get the piece back. One is just taking here, bishop takes f7, and then queen here check, forks the king and the bishop. So if you saw that, that's good. The other way to get it back is perhaps even stronger, playing queen d5 with a dual threat of queen takes here, winning at least the rook and perhaps mating, and also queen takes bishop. So this is winning as well. Let's see, the chess engine line is kind of amusing. It says he should sacrifice the bishop this way, bishop takes h2, so that he can get in this move, queen c7 check, and then after blocking, then he can play e5 here, advance the pawn, and then the queen defends f7 this way. So clever computer finding a defense like that, but still white is better. So it's it's just not good to take the knight, and black plays the best move. He plays e6, and now Sam just drops his knight back to d3. So you might wonder, well, what was all that about? He placed this knight on a square. Just because you can put a knight there and get away with it doesn't mean it's a good move. But he had a point, which was he's using this little combination, as I was talking about, to get his knight to this square. He's planning to just hold on to that c5 pawn. He's snagged an extra pawn in the opening, and he's going to keep it now. So, and also, the other thing that's happened here is that these pawns have been placed on light squares, so now there's some dark squared weaknesses around the black king that maybe are exploitable. Okay, so black continues developing, and now queen to f3, targeting the loose bishop here. Queen to d8, defending the bishop. Rook a to d1, placing the rook opposite the queen. And I think at this point I was really struck by his kind of classical style. You see, he put the pawns in the center in the beginning. Now he's just developing his pieces, putting the rooks on the central files where they belong, getting all his pieces out. Just a very classical style, very, very understandable. So queen to e7, getting away from the discovered threat of the knight moving. And c3 was played here. I guess controlling these squares, keeping the knight from hopping in at an awkward moment. Bishop to d7, continuing black's development. There's no good way to develop that bishop, really. It's not doing a whole lot here. But notice that when all these pawns were placed on light squares, they also had the, in addition to weakening the dark squares, they also blocked in this bishop. Okay, so rook f to e1, getting the other rook to a central file. Now all his pieces are mobilized. And knight to a5, attacking the bishop. So once again, it's time for a little combination. Rather than defending the bishop, he plays a move that defends it indirectly. So if you want to take a minute to think about it, what would you play as white here? Sort of an indirect defense of the bishop? Not so easy to see. I didn't expect this move at all. I'm going to give the answer away. He played knight to b4. So what's the point here? This bishop is still loose, and the knight can take it, right? Well, not quite. Let's see what happens. Well, actually, if you want to take a minute and see if you can figure out why knight takes bishop doesn't work, you can pause the video right here. Okay, I'm going to give away the answer now. After knight takes bishop, what you should notice is that the queen is a bit overloaded. It's defending two bishops, and both bishops are under attack. So rook takes bishop is really strong here. You might think, oh, this is just giving up, you're winning a couple pieces for that rook. That's surely good. But after you grab this bishop, it's not just about getting getting the bishop, it's also about the checkmate threat, and there's actually unavoidable mate in 2 in this position. So after rook takes d7, queen takes d7 is not even possible. What is the recommended move here? The recommended move here is knight e5. Okay, counterattacking the queen. And now just rook takes e5. And things are pretty devastating here. Bishop takes e5. And what's the count here? Rook takes queen, rook takes rook, and we've got queen and 2 pieces against 2 rooks and 1 piece. So yeah, white is a piece up at least, and he's got an extra pawn over here, and he's got a pretty awesome position with the bishop well posted bishop here, restricting black's king, and always providing mate threats. So interesting line there. So it just is not safe to take that bishop. Black plays the move bishop h8, just getting the bishop away from these threats. And now Sam decides to retreat his bishop to f1. So it's no longer under attack. Doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Rook a to c8. And bishop to e3. Bringing this bishop back to defend the pawn. Let's pause for a second. Right. He still couldn't grab the pawn here because his bishop is under attack. So, but when he played rook a to c8 in this position, after bishop to f1, it's black's move, and he can't take the pawn here because his bishop is under attack. So black plays rook a to c8, really threatening to win that pawn back, and bishop to e3, defending the pawn. So Sam is still holding on to his extra pawn that he got in the beginning of the game. And knight to c6 was played, bringing this knight back into the action. Knight to c2. Not wanting to trade off pieces, but rerouting this knight and looking for a more active post. Also, he has the idea of playing b4 at some point to securely defend that pawn. e5, gathering a little space in the center and just logically pushing forward. Bishop to g5. Another little trick, another combination. He's attacking the queen, but if the queen takes the bishop, we have rook takes bishop, and with the rook and the queen coordinating in the f7 square, that's very strong. So maybe queen takes g5 really is the only move. Yeah, the engine is recommending that. Queen takes g5 was actually played. I was thinking he hadn't played it. But I guess the queen doesn't have any good squares to go to. Queen to e6 is the next best choice here. And rook to d6 is the answer. So chasing the queen away. So it looks pretty dangerous. Well, let's see. I'll continue this line a little bit. Queen to f5 is possible. Queen to g3, defending the bishop. h6, chasing the bishop, and bishop takes h6. So anyway, it looks like black has to start giving up material there to hold on to things. So this move after bishop g5, queen takes g5 is actually the best move here and was played by black. And rook takes d7, like I said, coordinating on the f7 square. So rook e7 was played to defend it. Rook takes, queen takes. And now b4, securely holding on to his extra pawn. So let's see. Let's pause and evaluate. White has the extra pawn. He's got actively posted pieces. This bishop, I guess, is not doing anything at the moment, but it's going to re-enter the game at an appropriate moment. Queen to e6 was played here, and now knight to a3. Notice that queen to e6 once again was making a threat. And once again, Sam is ignoring the threat. He's saying, go ahead and take that pawn if you want. But the pawn can't be taken. So yet another little trick. What happens if black takes the pawn? Okay, I'll go ahead and show it. Queen takes pawn. And we have bishop here. The bishop is now defended by the knight on a3. It attacks, it attacks the queen. And there's also this checkmate threatened on f7. Queen takes f7 mate. So that's just not playable at all. So, but black has an idea here. He plays e4, giving up a pawn temporarily, but after rook takes, it's now safe to take. pretty clever play from black as well. So now this bishop c4 idea no longer works. Bishop c4, threatening the queen and threatening mate. What's happened and what's changed in the position is this rook has been drawn off the back rank. So now, now black can save his position by delivering some checks. Queen a1 check, king goes to h2, and knight e5, defending the f7 square. And if black tries to take away the defender, the bishop takes the rook with check. It's very important that it takes with check, because there's still this mate threatened, or near mate threatened here on f7. But now this check needs to be blocked with g3, and there's time for rook f8, and everything is defended. So after queen takes a2, in this position, this bishop c4 idea no longer works. So Sam just plays his knight to c4, hoping to prove that this queen is a bit offsides here. Rook to f8, defending the f7 square against those threats. And now knight to d6. Once again, we see a well-posted knight and a rook controlling an open file, just as in the previous game. And also, he's making threats on b7. And so we see a little bit of a pawn scramble here. Queen to a1, pinning the bishop here. And rook to e8. Sam decides to simplify at this point. Knight e5, hopping in to this square to attack the queen. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and the knight is defended by the bishop there. So Sam, like I said, is simplifying. He takes the rook, king takes, and then he just grabs on b7 with his queen. So he's got his knight and his queen in here, pressuring f7, which is defended by the knight at the moment, but keeps that pressure on. But we go for a little bit of a pawn scramble here. Queen takes b7, queen takes c3. Once again, nicely calculated by Sam. He takes on a7, allows black to take the b4 pawn, and then he just pushes with c6. And this pawn is going to decide the game. It doesn't even matter that, that this knight is hanging. In fact, queen takes d6 is the best move here, but c7 is still winning. What else can... is there any way for black to stop the pawn from queening? Maybe putting the queen on this diagonal. Notice that the bishop is on dark squares, so the bishop can't stop the pawn from going forward, and so only the queen can get there. The knight can't get there in time. So I guess queen to d7 or queen to e6 are the only tries, and then queen b8 check, king moves, and you get your queen. So this is just winning for white with that advantage of an extra queen. Well, an extra queen for a piece, but clearly winning. So in this position, after c6, black resigned. And so so Samuel started off this tournament with 3 wins in a row, and as we all know, he went on to finish with a score of 7.5, achieving a rating of 2511 and meeting the last requirement for Grandmaster. So congratulations again, Grandmaster-elect Samuel Sevian. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.